And hello everybody, Sherry Shriner. It's Monday night, June 18th. It's good to be here today, trying to get organized and get back into the swing of things after being gone for 2 weeks. And it's hot. I just traveled from snow to blistering heat. Somehow I always thought the West would be a bit different than the East. Oh, but it's good to be back, We got a ton of emails, tons of questions for the show. And what I wanted to do was just go over some of the things I wrote about my trip. And you can read about it at SherryShriner.blogspot.com or just go to SherryShriner.com or thewatchfiles.com. And I have an article written there. I just started writing, and it was amazing because I was under so much attack. I was literally frying like a chicken from their microwave weapons that they were targeting me with. And the Lord had told me, get all of your writings done on Saturday. And on this Saturday was the Sabbath, and I love to write on the Sabbath anyway, because I know He's all the more closer to you when it's a Sabbath and you're doing something for Him. And so I spent all day writing, and I didn't realize until I went to print it out. I've got about 17 pages of information on what I've called Road Trip 2007. And sure enough, on Sunday, all the attacks just stopped. They just stopped. I don't know if he broke their equipment or they just gave up. I think their whole plan was to try to prevent me from writing anything, to prevent me from saying anything, and when that didn't work, they just packed up and went home, or they just decided to target somebody else for a while. That's what it sounding like happened. They just moved to somebody else. And so, last couple of days have been relatively peaceful after much suffering, having gone through just trying to get home. It's when I left, I've been talking about going on a road trip for a long time, and so I thought I would be discreet about going, and I would just do as I customarily do and up and leave when no one expects it. And pay cash for everything because that hides a paper trail. They can't follow you if you're not using a bank card or a credit card. If you just pay cash for everything, it doesn't leave a paper trail. And so that's, I was very, very careful on the way out there to not leave a paper trail so I wouldn't be harassed on the road. But you know what, my main first destination to get to was Taos, New Mexico. And, I wasn't 20 miles outside Taos and I got a speeding ticket. And so that kind of blew the whole thing about being discreet, and I just had to laugh. And I knew at that point, everybody and their mother that I didn't want to know where I was going to know where I was, and that's exactly what happened. Taos all of a sudden became a center for a commercial convention at our particular hotel. There was government trucks, government vehicles, even some with license plates, government license plates, and I just got fried while I was there. It was actually my first introduction to microwave weapons, because when I originally got involved with orgone and some of the things that I've been doing over the past several years, it was to stop alpha attacks. And alpha attacks are extreme low frequency electromagnetic weapons that they use. And they started doing this when you're sitting in front of your monitor, and all of a sudden you'll feel your chest hurting like you're going to have a heart attack, or you might get dizzy, you might get real dehydrated and feel a sulfur taste in your mouth. I used to have to get away from the computer, sometimes even away from the house, to get away from the attacks, because as soon as I would leave the house I would feel fine. And that's when I figured out that they were using these alpha attacks through monitors to attack people with. And that's when I had prayed and asked the Lord about what we could use to stop these kinds of attacks. And He led me into orgone, and since then I've had orgone on top of my monitor, and I don't get alpha attacks. And so it's been relatively peaceful for a long time, until now. These microwave weapons are a bit more heat intensive. In fact, they're operated via satellites, and I don't know. I've heard of people saying that they have to be, they can be operated through equipment that's parked across from your house or whatever, and maybe that's so. Maybe there's somebody in a hotel adjacent to ours beaming into my hotel room, but we saw the lights coming into the hotel room. They missed my head twice. But, in the morning I would wake up and my face was just beet red, and I hadn't been in the sun, so wasn't a sunburn. And at that point, just everything I was eating was turning into food poisoning, and couldn't eat, was sick, was burning. My legs were fried, and they weren't even red, and they were burning me to death. And so we ended up eventually having to leave Taos. And once we got on the road, once we got out of New Mexico, basically, we pretty much lost them. Until I came home. Until I was about 40 miles outside of home, and then the attacks were just vicious. And so it's been an eventful trip. They didn't stop anything we set out to do. In fact, they always just give you that little impetus to motivate you more, to just annoy them more. Sometimes when you're out there and you're planning Oregon and you're doing things for the Lord and you're tearing down strongholds, that this isn't particularly an area that's going to, secure it or protect Christians, but if we get it, it'll just annoy the aliens. And so you just do it to annoy the aliens. And I know there's a big push lately now. People going around talking about how reptilian shapeshifters don't exist and blah, blah, blah. And it's garbage. It's garbage. It's all in the chain of command of Lucifer's kingdom, and reptilians are right at the top underneath the Dracos, the Draconians. And so they do exist, folks. And so it doesn't surprise me, because every time you come out with the truth, there's somebody else coming behind you trying to discredit it and say it doesn't exist. And so that's just the way it is. And it's not like it's really pertinent to someone's salvation, whether they believe in aliens or not. What it does is it opens your eyes as to how they're doing things behind the scenes. Because so many people look at the political structure and look at it that way. This is how they're doing it through politics, and that's fine. The Lord just led me into the backdoor agenda several years ago. And the backdoor agenda being how they're implementing things in the spiritual realm, or in the so deep background that only very few humans even know they exist. These are the Black Op projects, the Black Op government and military, and how Satan is using his forces, which we call aliens, which are just fallen angels, to implement and get everything ready for Satan's arrival on Earth. They have to, things just aren't going to fall out of trees and be prepared for Satan. When he comes claiming he's God, there's a lot of work, a lot of background work that needs done. And so that's what I've been focusing on, and that's some of the things that I've been revealing over the years, how they do things and why they're doing them. And so I have a totally different aspect and an approach in how I deal with things. And then you can look at the political structure and it just bores you to death. It's nothing but lies. So much more interesting on some of the other things. I think I have to look at everything across the board, and that's something else the Lord has led me to do. And just analyze everything they're doing, what factions are doing what, who are the factions, who's what, who's where. So it's interesting, so that when things happen, you know what's happening. You can tell everybody else what's happening. And it's been a long ride. It's been years. And, sometimes, I get these emails from people, why am I still alive? Oh, that's because it's the Lord that keeps me alive. It's almost like they're almost they're not going to be happy until they see me hanging from a tree. I've suffered through a lot of attempts. I've lived through several assassination attempts. And so nothing's been easy, but just because I don't dwell on things doesn't mean they're not there on a constant basis. I was put under 24/7 surveillance 6 years ago by Al Gore's agenda. Him and the DIA, he's got his own organization deep within the DIA, and so, just a lot of things happening all the time. But it's good to be back.